Hi folks, it's nearly the weekend, so welcome to another 5 Minute Friday here on Meaningful Money. Sorry about last week, one of those annoying occasions where I record 2 or 3 of these in a row, and then when I come to start editing, realise that the audio was completely knackered. So I had to do it again. 8 years of doing videos, still making rookie mistakes. Not sure what that says about me really, but hey, I still love me. Do you? So I've had a question in from Stuart, who earns a salary, a decent salary, but he gets a bonus once a year, and that's due anytime soon. And like many people at the moment, he's concerned. Should he invest that bonus in one go right now, or should he drip it in over the market? Now I'll give you one guess as to what the key thing might be, which is causing his uncertainty right now. Yep, it's the B word, and as I speak, we're about 4 months away from the 29th of March deadline for coming out of the EU. And as I record this, we have an agreement between the EU and the UK as to the terms of the divorce, but that hasn't yet been ratified by the UK Parliament. There's still a lot of uncertainty around. And even here at Jackson's, loads of clients are asking us right now, should I wait? Should we wait and see what happens before investing? And it's an extremely valid point. So let's try and explore that a little bit today. But before we do that, let me put 5 minutes on the clock down here. Say a quick thank you to my friends at 7 Investment Management down here for continuing to sponsor Meaningful Money. And let's crack on. So let's take a minute to talk about perspective. Now, perspective is easy over the long term. Current uncertainty might end up being nothing of any great note at all when viewed firstly in hindsight from the future looking back, but also in the perspective of a longer term picture. It's a truism that most market corrections, significant ones now, really I shouldn't call them corrections, we're talking significant crashes, say of more than 20%, most of them recover fully within 2 years. And of course investing is or should be a long-term game, really minimum 5 years, arguably longer than that as a minimum, and you could be investing for 20, 30, 40, 50 years. So in that timescale, a 2-year dip and correction, or if you like, a correction downwards and a recovery is really neither here nor there. But that's great theory, Pete, but right now it feels a little bit scary. And I absolutely understand that. Money is not an abstract concept. When you've worked hard to earn the money, or if you've lost a family member and that's how you've come into the money, there's a whole load of emotion tied up in it. And so it's easy for me to be flippant and say, well, time in the market, you should just put it in, don't worry about the short term because we're investing for the long term. Well, that's easy when it ain't me writing the check. But we do need to remind ourselves, most corrections recover fully within 2 years. On average, each year, the market will correct by 10 to 15% at least once in every year on average. So volatility is normal. And in fact, volatility should be celebrated if you've got money to invest, because it means the markets are cheaper and so you can buy in at lower price than you could have, say, a few weeks ago. Another factor is whether you are considering taking money out, of course, and that's why we talk about investing in the long term. If you are retired and looking to decumulate, in other words, withdraw and spend the money that you've amassed over time, that requires a slightly different investing approach, and that's not really the subject of today's episode. So hold that thought and we'll come back to it another time. But perspective is important. We are humans, we are affected by the here and now, but we must remind ourselves that investing is for the long term, and that over the long term, markets will look after you. They will make you money over the long term. So remember that while you're bombarded with negative messages from the mainstream media. Another factor, of course, is what we call pound cost averaging, which is where you invest into the market over time. So you invest regularly, smaller amounts over time, rather than dumping a load of money in all on day one. The idea of that is that as markets move around, you are buying shares at different points, and the value of those shares that you buy them at kind of smooths out over time, because you'll have bought some at higher price, some at lower price, and as time goes on, you have a portfolio, the sort of average price that you've bought in at should be a bit smoother. That's as opposed, of course, to sticking all your money in on day one and then just crossing your fingers and hoping that the markets go up from there and cursing yourself if they go down. So it removes a little bit of the risk, but more than anything, what it does is it makes you feel a little bit like you're doing something. So it's a psychological benefit, arguably more than a financial benefit. I mean, ultimately, whether pound cost averaging benefits you or not, or whether you should in fact have put all the money in on day one, is really the toss of a coin. You'll either wish you had put all your money in on day one, or you'll be glad you didn't. And which of those you end up being is the toss of a coin. Nobody can know. So I do think there's a benefit from pound cost averaging, but I do think it's more emotional, psychological rather than financial, although it could end up being financially beneficial. Third thing we need to understand is that trying to time the markets is for idiots. Only morons think that they can time something as massive and unknowable as the market. There are a million factors at play, both fundamental and economical, and the sentimental reasons that markets move. And with so many players, and with increasing technology and algorithmic trading being done by the big institutions, there is no way that little me sitting here in Penzance can know when the right time is to invest in the stock market. And because that's the case, we just got to decide either I will or I won't. So whatever your past experience, maybe you timed the 2007, 8, 9 crash and recovery very well. Well, that was more luck than judgment. Go on, admit it, it was, wasn't it? And you have a 50-50 chance of timing the next market dip and rise correctly. At best, actually, probably the odds are a lot lower than that. We need to understand that tomorrow has never happened before. Everything that's happened in the past is old news. It has no bearing on what might happen tomorrow. So why are we trying to apply logic for what happened in the past to what might happen tomorrow? Nobody knows. Say it with me. Nobody knows. The politicians don't know. Professional fund managers don't know. Your financial advisor certainly doesn't know. Your mate Alan down the pub, he's a bit of a wazzock, really. He certainly doesn't know. He likes to think he does, but it's just the beer talking. And so if nobody knows, how can you know? We cannot time the markets, so we might as well not try. So by making a decision to go in to the markets, maybe to some degree, maybe do a bit of pound cost averaging, we're making ourselves feel like we're doing something, but at least we are getting money in the market. Might not be all of it on day one, but at least we're getting some in. And over the long term, that will benefit you. So there's a lot that we don't know, but what do we know? We know that equities, shares, are the engine for long-term growth. Capitalism, for all its failings, is the best way that we humans have evolved to make money grow over time. We know that historically, markets have risen in more years than they have fallen, and there is no reason to think that that won't be the case in future. We know that most corrections are very short term, and even the really severe ones are usually fully recovered within a couple of years. And we know that if markets have corrected, then you can buy into them more cheaply than you could have before they corrected. And that itself is a reason to celebrate. So Stuart, should you put all your bonus into the market here now on day one, or should you drip it in? And the answer, of course, is that you should do what feels right to you and accept the consequences of that decision. You'll either be right or you'll be not quite so right. But let's face it, if whatever option you choose turns out to be not exactly right, it isn't going to make or break you. So let's just chill and get on with it and not worry about it too much. And if you're in any doubt, talk to your local friendly financial advisor or financial planner. They will be able to help you. The best financial planners will act as coaches as well to reassure you when it's necessary, but also to make you understand that this stuff isn't going to make or break you, and they will hold your hand through whatever decision you make. Stuart, I hope that's helpful. Not sure if it is or not, but thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Any questions, go to meaningfulmoney.tv/askpete, and they will form fodder for future 5-Minute Fridays. Thanks for watching. I'll talk to you next week.